Hello and welcome to something slightly different at Plymouth Parkway. You might have seen it advertised on social media. We've got a section, a video called Ask the Chairman. Mark Russell next to us. You right, Mark?
Good afternoon.
Ready for a grilling?
Always.
Got Gav helping me as well along with Parkway Media, so let's get stuck into it. This is Ask the Chairman.
So we'll kick off with questions about the pitch. Not surprisingly, this is probably the number one topic we've had questions on. And it's great, it's like the most number of debates really, so I think we'll tackle that subject first just to highlight the things people are saying. So one of the first questions we got in is from Paul Rogers, who asks, as chairman, are you satisfied after all the work carried out on the pitch with the number of games cancelled so far this season?
So I think it's disappointing that we've had the number of games called off. What we do need to appreciate is the work that was done was to improve the drainage. Now, the drainage is working. So when the rain comes down, if we have a really heavy downpour, where we would have not previously lost the pitch for a good 10 days while we were getting that water off the pitch, we're now at a point where that water is going off the pitch and you can see it draining within an hour of a heavy downpour. The issue that we're having with the pitch is the top layer and the coverage of grass, which is down to a number of reasons and a number of things that we're learning as we go along. So I think there's times where we could have done a little bit more on the pitch. There's some things that obviously with a brand new pitch, there's always elements of it's new grass. So it does take a little bit longer. It's so young that we've taken everything off that pitch. And doing this pitch was always going to be a 5-year plan. It was never a turn up with a new pitch and make it perfect. It is a grass pitch. It's a mud pitch. So let's, when you look at comparisons with other football pitches, and I know Plymouth Argyle has been one that's been mentioned by people, the thing with the Plymouth Argyle pitch is it's not grass, it's a sand, it's not an earth pitch, it's a sand pitch. So it is sand and very little earth, whereas ours is earth with a little bit of sand. So we over the next 5 years, we've got to start developing that, and the grass will become more mature and then it will be more durable. There is always going to be a learning curve with a brand new pitch for everybody, but also issues with new grass.
I think that covers quite a lot of the questions that people raised, but I just want to touch on one final one, and this is worst case scenario is there any provisions being made to play elsewhere if the rain continues for the next coming couple of months?
As now, no, is a simple answer, mainly because there isn't pitches in the area that come up to the ground grading. So the difficulty is that obviously we've got a ground grading requirement for what level we're at. Truro have got a different ground grading requirement which is even higher than ours. So if you're trying to find another pitch, you're going to struggle. So it will be, looking at it, I looked at it the other day, we've got 22 games to get in a period of 15 weeks, which actually, if we can, we've got to bear in mind that November was the wettest November on record. So obviously that's had a bearing on everything. But, we could then have the driest February, March and April and actually have no problems at all. We could be playing 3 games a week on the pitch or 4 games a week on the pitch. So, it's not going to be a perfect pitch for the rest of the season. We can't, make grass grow in this time of year, so we're not going to be able to replace the grass that's gone, but we can make the pitch as good as we can. And the ground staff have actually got plans to come in after this weekend's game and do work, because there's no game on the pitch next weekend, so they've got a good period now to start doing some work. Obviously we've got a home game on Tuesday, but they can start some of the preparation, and then after Tuesday they can get on there with some of the machinery, subject to the weather, and get some sand into the pitch to break that earth up a little bit more, which will then help the drainage again. But what you can see on the pitch is the drain lines that have been put in. You can see them visibly. When you look, you can see the lines in the pitch, so the actual drainage is draining away. So at the moment there isn't any provisions, but obviously we'll continue to review that situation as we go forward.
Yeah, I think that covers everything on the pic. We could go on, but you've answered, and we'll draw a line under it for now. But so moving on, there's sort of themes running out throughout these questions, and we're going to touch on marketing next, and obviously with the building of the stands and the outer perimeter of Blytheville, which everyone is praising, not like the pitch. Is it time for a different approach with the marketing? Plymouth Parkway now an attractive sponsorship and advertising option for local businesses. Is a plan needed to build on current success and build the Parkway brand further within the city?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that the board have been discussing for the last 6-12 months really, and prior to that, but I think we're a different proposition to what we were a few years ago, and I think there is an opportunity to get more sponsors on board at the football club. The difficulty is that everybody who is involved at the football club are volunteers, so you've got to bear in mind the time that people have got to be able to put into things, and that's the biggest difficulty we have. So that sort of leads us on to the sort of topics that we have discussed as a board is, how do we go about doing that? How do we go about getting somebody who can deal with commercial side of things? And it's an ongoing topic that we're discussing at the board at the moment, to try to see whether there is an opportunity to bring in someone on a commercial side that maybe works on a commission basis, where we can get more sponsors into the football club, because actually there are a lot of people in Plymouth that I think we could get sponsorship from, and that obviously is a massive part of the progression of the football club. Without looking at those opportunities, we're going to be struggling to sustain the progression that we've had. So we've got to look at different ways, and there's lots of discussions going on. At the moment, there's a lot of things going on with the marketing team at the moment. We've improved that over the last sort of 2-3 years. Obviously with yourself, Mike, coming in and sort of doing all the video work and stuff like that, documentary, that's been brilliant. Gavin's taken a real good lead on the social side of things with us. So, there's some really good things happening with the football club on the marketing side, but there are a lot more things we can do. And I think, there's a time where we've sort of come to as a football club where we need to just look at the next stage. And a lot of that has been, we've got to think for the last 18 months we haven't really been able to do anything because of COVID. So we've got to start looking now at what is the progression, how do we get these people on board, how do we find more people to help the progression of the marketing side of the football club for definite.
Cool. Yeah, and that kind of leads into the question that Kevin's asked, and that's about, it's kind of a similar point. And he's saying that the rise of Parkway recently has been massive. Like he kind of asked, how do you and the board cope with running the club on top of your day-to-day lives? And he's kind of asked, addition to that, is it time for the off-field staff is bolstered to help out with those additional tasks, to share the load effectively? And then I've kind of seen at other grounds and other places we've been, especially this season, the list of people at a football club is massive, and ours is relatively small compared to that. So, yeah, that's kind of the question, really.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the rise has been massive. So in the space of a few years, we've gone up 2 levels. So we're now playing at a much higher level. I think you're right. When we've been to grounds or we've had visiting clubs come here, we've seen a different number of people in their sort of committees that sort of opens your eyes to make you think, well, actually, do we need to look at bolstering ours? And I think the one thing is, yes, you know, I don't think anybody at board level will have an issue with bolstering the number of people that help out. However, they've got to be adding something to the board. There's no point in bringing somebody in just for a number. And it's got to be the right people that join that off the field, because otherwise, you know, the way we work at the moment works. You know, we've seen the good progression of the football club. You know, the various board members give up their own time to get those things done, but there is a point where certain things I think we can do a lot better, and as we've progressed, I think it has become something that we've all become aware of is, you know, probably could do with more pairs of hands. What we are very fortunate is there's a lot of good people that are willing to give up that time, but don't need to be part of a board. They're quite happy to just give that time up. So we can't forget those people either, because actually they've been massive to the football club for the last 5-6 years and longer. And you know, there's been people that will just turn up, you know, and if you sling a message out going, we need a load of bodies down the ground to help us, before you know it, we've got 20 people turning up. So we have got people, it's just making sure that they're the right people. And I think, you know, a lot of clubs can get stuck in the position of lots of people in the boardroom who aren't adding anything to the board. That we cannot afford to have happen at Parkway, because we need to be progressive. You know, we need to look for who's going to lead this football club for the next 10, 15, 20 years, not who's going to lead it for the next 3. And I think that's where we've got to just make sure that we make these steps on a gradual basis at the right process and the right timings.
Sticking with kind of the marketing theme, but we're going to touch on the matchday programme. A lot's been talked about it this season. We've turned to an online format, and we're not printing anymore. Ian Kendall asks, can we review this decision? I appreciate the printing cost saves money for the club, but I feel an awful lot of sponsorship is lost this way. Potential sponsors like to see their names in printed programmes, and he finishes by stating that it's shown by the lack of sponsors sponsoring the players this season. So will it be coming back? Do you agree with what Ian said?
Yes, I think that there is benefit to the point of sponsors like to see their names, 100%. If you've got a sponsor turning up and they can't see the programme and they can't see their name, they question where's my sponsorship gone? It's not something we sell to sponsors at the moment, because we know we're not doing it. So a lot of the time it's an additional thing that we put into a sponsorship package. It's not the be all and end all of a sponsorship package. So you know, it might be an add-on to something they're already doing, which has been a conscious decision to do that by by us to not try to sell that as a product. However, you know, we do need to look at it on a basis of, if we print 50 programmes every week and only sell 20, then we're losing money on those 30 that we're not selling, and we're not making enough on the 20 to cover the cost of the 50. So it's a really difficult one to get right. And I think also we've got to look at the timing. You know, it's putting together an online program is difficult enough. Getting it ready to go to print and getting it printed, picking it out for the printers, they're all little jobs that someone needs to do. So, you know, it might be that we have to look at maybe a scaled down version of the program from what goes online, that can be printed 3 or 4 days in advance of a fixture. Yeah, when we go to a lot of grounds still, you see some of them will have a sort of catch-all program and then a slide in a little bit in the middle. You know, I don't really like that myself. I think doesn't feel like a proper matchday program, but I can understand why they do it, because it's a lot easier. The cost is a lot cheaper because you can print a number of them for the season. So I think it's something we need to look at, and it's something that, you know, I'll be covering with yourself, Mike, being the person who actually does the programs.
Yeah. Cheers, Mark. Don't think we've got anything else on programs for the minute. So moving on to the next point, or the next question, is around the connection we've got with Plymouth Argyle. So with the success of Finlay, Krask and Rhys Shirley playing, you know, on loan to us effectively for a number of weeks, will this brilliant relationship remain with Argyle after the change in their management recently? And if so, will we be seeing more loans between the two clubs? And that comes from Sam.
Yeah, so our relationship with Plymouth Argyle was more than Ryan Lowe. And I think that's really key to sort of highlight to everybody is, personally, I have a good relationship with Simon, and Neil Dewsnip. I've spoken to Neil on a regular basis, so there's a relationship there. Lee has had a very good relationship with Ryan Lowe, but also has a very good relationship with Nanskaville, and now has a very good relationship with Schumacher. So we've built relationships with them on the basis of whatever manager is there will be able to continue these things. So it was something when Neil and myself sat down and talked about this relationship of the two clubs, was that this is bigger than any individual person. So it doesn't matter if Lee leaves Plymouth Parkway or Mark leaves Plymouth Parkway. It doesn't matter if Simon Hallett leaves Plymouth Argyle or Ryan Lowe at the time left Plymouth Argyle. It's about the two clubs, and there's more than just Lee and Ryan that deal with them. So, yes, we've had two great players on loan this season, not three if you count Ethan as well. And we're hopeful that there will be more. This is part of a long-term progression. Obviously, Plymouth Argyle would like to see us playing as high as we can, because the higher we play, the more they can get to us. They see that it's good for the players' development, because they're playing competitive football, and that comes from every manager, every coach at the football club. It's not just the manager; it's every coach that's involved. So I think there's good relationships throughout all of the different levels. That the manager changing isn't the be-all and end-all of a relationship. So I'm looking forward to seeing more players on loan over the next few years.
Question from Frank Harper, and also one from Ian Kendall, kind of covering the same things. I see Frank put this on social media quite a lot in comments section, but he says, is there going to be any thought being put into trying to arrange next season fixtures on different times from Argyle matches? The effect on your crowd would be dramatic. Just imagine what the crowd would have been if you played on New Year's Day when Argyle was postponed. The onward effect on new fans would be tremendous. And Ian comments the same thing. Saturdays cannot be avoided, but with Argyle playing at home on Tuesday, would it not be better to change our home matches to Wednesday, if this is possible, to get more revenue through the gate for us?
So Saturday fixtures are fixtures. We can't dictate to the Southern League what day, what games we want to play and when we want to play. There was times where when we were in the South West Peninsula, we could put a request into the league. Even the Western League, we could do a little bit. The Southern League, it's such a big animal that actually it's not going to be something that we could ever request. So actually moving Saturday fixtures, it's never going to happen. Potentially moving our games to a Wednesday evening. To be honest, the call of when we play, whether we play on Tuesday or Wednesday, tends to come down to the manager at the beginning of the season, and what day the manager has the best availability of himself, his coaching staff. So that is a potential that we could look at that. Obviously that wouldn't change anything this season. It would have to be from next season, because at the beginning of the season you put forward what day, and we very strongly said we wanted to play Tuesdays, and hence why you'll see that Truro, if there was two fixtures in a week, they would play a Wednesday, we would play a Tuesday. So we have, there is potential that we can look at that, but it's got to work for the players. There's no point in us playing on a Wednesday if 6 of our squad can't make it, and so it's got to be that it's right for everybody.
Cool. And this kind of follows there's one from James Hammercott about you can see the low or dip in our attendance when Argyle play on the same day, and you're never going to fight that, but can more be done to try and get additional people through the gate?
I think it's a natural progression that will happen, and I think if we look back to 4, 5, 6 years ago, and the attendances we get now, even if Argyle are at home, they're better. So I think by us playing a more competitive level, by the media that goes out and the exposure that we're getting, I think we can do more with that. But also we're getting a lot of good press coverage, which gives us a boost if people pick up the paper and go, oh, actually Parkway are home this weekend, I'll go. I think that there are things we can look at doing. There's things we can look at doing at marketing to try to get more people through the gate, and try to without being nasty, try to reduce the average age of our supporters a little bit as well would be quite nice, because getting the next generation of supporters in, because that's really important to the progression of the football club as well. So we've got to try to do what we can to get the youngsters starting to watch us, so they want to come and watch Plymouth Parkway as opposed to going to watch other clubs. And the link we've got with our youth as well at the moment is really good. So every youth player gets a free season ticket out to come to every game. So that's encouraging the youngsters to come and watch our games. And that is, that's vital for us to have the players that are playing for us and playing under the badge turning up to watch our games. And because they drag along mum and dad, and then suddenly that they bring along more people. And if they're playing on a Saturday morning and they come here after a game, the chances are that mum, dad, nan, granddad are also going to come along with them as well. So it will help, and there's a lot of things that we can do along those lines that I think as a group, and this isn't a board thing, this is probably more of a marketing and communication thing that we need to work on to get more people through the gate.
So we've got another good question coming from James Hammercott. So a lot of praise must go to the management team, especially Lee Hobbs, based on his success with Parkway over recent years. Is Lee and the management team in your long-term plans, and will they be back financially? Good question.
So Lee and his team have done exceptionally well over the time that they've come in, and in all honesty, if we didn't think Lee was the right man back when we first did it, he wouldn't be here now. There was a lot of belief in what Lee spoke to us about when he came in for interview, and we liked what we heard. We've backed Lee. I think that's really important. People, we have backed Lee in what he's wanted. There are times where we've had to say no, but it's very, very rarely. Lee has done a super job. He's very well connected in terms of he's got his ear to the ground, so he knows what's going on in local football. There's probably not a day goes by that Jez or myself don't speak to him about something, and probably multiple times a day, or he'll be messaging you, and literally I've turned up today, I was on the phone to him as I drove in the car park. There is a constant dialogue. Lee is the first manager in the history of Plymouth Parkway to go on contract. So that's a big statement from the football club as to how much we value Lee. Is Lee in our future plans? Of course he is. We're not going to suddenly go, we're going to change the manager. But at the end of the day, the results are what talk. So while Lee's delivering the results we need, and we're doing so well as we are at the moment, and we're in a really good position this season, and this last 12 months has been really successful for the football club as well, you're not going to change your manager. Long term, the long-term plans and backing Lee financially, I don't think there's any reason why we wouldn't, providing we can justifiably do it, and that's sustainable. And that's the key thing that I've banged on since I came into the football club, is it's got to be sustainable, and there's no point in taking gambles, and we will not take gambles.
As results and performances on the pitch in both the league and cup, we can't forget this season's FA Trophy wonderful run we've had so far. It looks like we can compete at this level and possibly the next tier above. With the club moving forward at such a pace, would there already be things in place to cater for regulations, i.e. finance, ground gradings, etc., to step up a league? Are we ready for it, in essence, is again the third question James Hammercott has asked.
So I think that this falls into multiple answers, and you could give various different comments to it. So it's really difficult to answer as a one question. But are the club in the right position to sustainably continue what we're doing? Yes. Are the club in the right position to potentially grow? Yes. We've already covered the fact of we could do more in the marketing and sponsorship. So that's where the progression of the football club comes from. Financially, that all ties back into, can we do more from sponsorship and that sort of thing, which is key. Can we compete at a level above? I think, financially right now, we probably would struggle to be up there with some of the bigger teams. in that level, but I think we could probably be with some of the sort of middle to lower teams in terms of where we could compete. So I don't think we're a million miles away from that. But there is also a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and it's something that, you know, we've had conversations for a number of months, you know, to look at how do we strengthen everything off the pitch. You know, we've done it great for the facility. You know, this is now one of the best grounds, I think, in the Southern League and below. You know, so I think we've got a really good really good facility here. You know, we've got a really good team. The team are delivering. I think off the pitch, we've got a great board with the supporting people around that board. I do think that there are certain things that we need to do, as we've already covered, with, you know, additional people. But again, those additional people have got to become the right people and not just there because of it, which then means that if you've got the right people, you then can step up financially what you can do. You know, I think regulations is a little bit of a difficult one, because I would say that we're not struggling with regulations now, and I don't think we'd struggle if we went up to the Southern League. You know, I think that we're very well set up. You know, we do everything right. You know, we don't, you know, financially everything is done correctly. It all goes through a chartered accountant. You know, it's not done, you know, by a scrap of paper and scribbling things down. It is done proper accounts, and, you know, we have to. We're a limited company, so we have to submit proper accounts. So, you know, everything is being done, I think, by, you know, regulations, from what I can understand from James's question there. But I think as we've covered, lots of things that we can do to progress.
Thank you for that. Pete Hamlin emailed in. He says, what's your personal and also the board's ambition, and where do you think the club will be in the next 5 years? And he signs off his question with, I think you're all doing a wonderful job at the club. It's nice to see you up and about again, and I echo those comments.
Yes, and me.
Hugely.
So I can only speak for my personal, for me personally here, as opposed to the board as a whole, because I think if you asked the board members, they might say something different, or, you know, they probably would say similar, I think. But I think in the next 5 years, there's no reason why we couldn't get to the Southern Prem. You know, 5 years ago, we came out and stated that by 5 years' time, we'd be in the Southern League. We achieved that. And, you know, since then, I've been waiting for the question to come, well, you said that 5 years ago, what are you going to say next? And I think that as a football club, we are set up quite comfortably with some additions we've covered already, to be able to be a sustainable good Southern Premier team. You know, Conference South is another level, and it's something that would take a lot more than what we've got at the moment to be able to set ourselves up for that. But that is also something that, as a football club, we have we will achieve, we will do it. We've got a can-do attitude, as opposed to, oh dear, what are we going to do? We'll do it if we have to do it, or not have to, but if we end up in a situation. So, yeah, I would say in the 5 years, it's to be a good, competitive, strong Southern Premier team. And yeah, it's great to be back about again. You know, not being able to go to games is very, very frustrating. You know, especially when you're getting phone calls when everybody's on the way home upset because, you know, we've lost the game, and having to, you know, discuss the game. You know, when people decide to FaceTime me on the way home, Gav.
Don't remember that.
That never happened. We've got to touch on the Truro Connection. Obviously, they're our Neighbours ground sharing with us this season. Has the relationship been challenging, if at all? Would you have done anything differently? And that's from Mike.
I don't think the relationship's been challenging. You know, they've not been difficult to deal with. You know, they're not difficult. I think the situation of having them is difficult because we're playing a lot of games. You know, we knew that it was always going to be the thing, but we had to balance off what we've got. You know, we have to look around ourselves and go, we wouldn't have achieved this if we didn't do what we did. So therefore, we are going to take a few months of crying into our handkerchiefs because of the fact we've made some decisions that are, for the long term, the right decisions for the football club. And I think that's the key thing to get across to everybody is, it's not about one season. This is about what we as a club have managed to achieve with Truro coming here. Yes, there's been additional support put in, from a lot of people, sponsors around the ground that you've seen go up that probably weren't here before, some that have put additional money in on top to be able to make this possible. So not just what Truro did, but from what a lot of our sponsors have added to. So no, they've not been difficult to deal with. They're fair. I think that they, there's always going to be questions over, the pitch and whether it's in or out, but that's the bottom line is the referee decides that one, not us as a club or Truro as a club. Would we have done anything differently? I don't think really you can say, would we have done anything differently? I mean, it's a difficult question because, there's always things that in hindsight you go, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that, but with the knowledge we had at the time of doing everything, I don't think we would change anything that's happened. And even with the things we've learned in hindsight, I think are more things that maybe we can learn from, which are probably more pitch related than anything else. It's things that we can learn on the pitch that we can benefit us in longer term in years to come.
Thanks, Mark. So moving on, we're going to cover off what I think we've termed as the same old question. So Parkway have positioned themselves in such a way that they're there to be shot at with like the recent success, media outputs and the talk of budgets, all those sorts of things. What do you think about that, and how do you deal with the sometimes sort of negative comments, sort of things like it's just you and others pumping money in, and so how do you deal with that?
How do I deal with it? I laugh, if I'm honest. I find a lot of the comments that are made quite laughable. At the end of the day, we've progressed as a football club. It's not about whether Mark Russell was here or anybody else. It is about Plymouth Parkway Football Club. Now, we had a competitive budget when we were in the Southern League. Yes, we did. That's why we're out of it. We had a competitive budget in the Western League. That's why we're out of it. We've got a realistic budget for this season. We are by far not the biggest budgets in this level. So, it is a little bit laughable when you read some of the comments. If I personally want to put in money to the football club, that's my choice. If I don't want to put money into the football club, that's my choice. So it's not about, I do not, and I don't put my personal money into this football club. There are things that we might do. So quite often we'll be pottering around and we'll see, a bigger TV there would look good. And it's likely that actually Jez and myself will turn around and go, let's stick a couple of £100 in each and get a bigger TV. Those things happen because we love the football club, but we need to do it when we're happy to do it, and it's got to be on our terms. What we have done is we've positioned ourselves with some very good sponsors, and that is where, they're not pumping money into the football club, but if you can get a number of good sponsors on board who love the football club, and that's the key thing, is that the sponsors we have love Plymouth Parkway. They're not about, it's a love of what they get, and a comment that was made to me by Parkway Timber was, Mark, the amount of exposure I get because I sponsor Plymouth Parkway far outweighs what I'm paying you, because he's seeing his shirt around, he's seeing people, bits in the paper with his shirt, people are tweeting it, it's massive exposure, and people, I think, the people that sort of, want to have a pop at us, the only reason they want to have a pop at us is because we're successful. And the only way you can deal with that really is just laugh and just go, well, we're doing everything right, and I think that's the important thing. Do everything right. Where financially money comes from, as long as it is done correctly, and when you are in a position where you're getting crowds of 300-400 people, of course you're going to have more money to spend than someone who's getting 100. And I think that's the other thing that people fail to realise is, you can spend more money if you have more money coming in. And if you've got 100 people coming through the gate paying you £8 and you've got 400 people coming through the gate paying you £8, you're going to have a bigger budget. And that is just football. That is the same as any football club in the country. Yeah, that's why Burnley don't have as big a budget as Man United. Yeah, that's just football.
Better team now. Something we want to touch on, new kit. So obviously the home and the away kit might be up for renewal at the end of the season. Will both so one of the questions that has come in, I didn't write the name down, will both the home and away kit due for change at the end of the season? There was success with the fans creating the current away kit via social media. Could we see this return at the end of the season if the kits are due to change?
Yeah, and I think I agree. I think it was great to put that out to the fans to come forward with designing kits. I think it was a great way to do it, and I think it also opened, the board, the management team of the footballing side, to look at them and actually go, crikey, we'd never have come up with that design ourselves. So I think there is, great reason to do that. So it's something that we will be looking at doing, and I definitely think that we'll be looking to push it out to fan involvement, because I think it did come up with a design that, whether you like it or don't like it, it's designed by the supporters. So you can't have, oh well, the board chose that particular design. It's not that. It's a supporter. Then we went to vote. So we couldn't have been any fairer, and therefore, I might really dislike the kit, but that doesn't matter. I'm not saying I do, but it doesn't matter because the supporters have backed that kit, and that's what I think is important to learn from what we did before.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, Ian Kendall has asked a question. Don't want to preempt ourselves, and it's a long way to go yet, but it's around promotion. And more specifically the playoff format for this year. Do we know what that playoff format will look like at the end of the season? And he's kind of surmised that second play fifth, third play fourth. Is it one legs or two legs for those games, and for the final 1 leg or 2 leg? He seems to think we're in with a chance of being in there, but hey, a long way to go yet. So yeah, just not sure of the format, and if you've got any ideas of what it could or will look like.
Honestly, don't know. I haven't looked into it because it's a long way off, and I think also with football at the moment, who knows? Things can change very quickly. We're living in a really weird world at the moment. We're very fortunate that we've luckily been able to get games on, but you only need to look at the Football League and the Premier League at the moment with all the games that are going off, that could eventually end up happening at our level, and then we could end up with what we're going to do to get these games on. Is the season going to need to be extended to make it happen? I don't know what the league rules are on that, and there's a lot of changes that have happened to football in general because of that. So I think for that I haven't looked. I don't know what the format is for it. Probably, if I'm honest with you, I probably won't look at it until it happens, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what happens, because I don't want to preempt anything, and I think that if we get to that position where we get to the playoffs, then we'll have done extremely well this season, and I think it's a big challenge to get there.
George goes right to the here and now. This is obviously if the games do go ahead this month. Will this mammoth January define our season, as we have big league matches and a trip to Spennymoor in the FA Trophy?
Yeah, I think it will. I think if you're playing 3 games on the road in a week, it's going to have a bearing on your season. If we can come out of that week with, dare I say it, 3 wins, we'll be in a very, very good position for everything. But let's be honest, we've had a great run in the trophy. If someone had said to us at the beginning of the season we'll get this far, we'd have probably just laughed at them. We've had a great run in it. We've had some great performances. The lads have done superbly well. Obviously we've got a lot of travelling to do in that just on that trip alone, let alone the following 2 games as well. So it's going to be a big week for the players. But I think the thing that people forget sometimes as well is these lads all work full time as well. So these lads are having to take days off work to make these trips. So you've got to hope that they've got understanding bosses. The team are travelling up on the Friday, so people are having to take the Friday off work. We're then going to an away game the following week on a Tuesday. Again, they're going to need to have time off work. Every time you have that sort of sequence is always going to have an effect on the season. So hopefully we can come out of the end of those games. Hopefully they all go ahead, and we'll get there. I know that Spennymoor, I noticed on Twitter the other day, had put a call out to volunteers to help them lay the pitch covers. Because I know they've got forecast some snow coming in. They're doing everything they can to prepare it for the game. Hopefully we'll get up there. We'll have a good weekend. And it will be what it will be in the FA Trophy this season. It's a bit of a dream at the moment. So.
You talk about the players having full-time jobs. Obviously, you've got one yourself. You've got a meeting shortly, so we'll try and wrap things up. But me and Gav both wanted to finish by asking a question by Parkway Media, and it's a happy note to finish on. We just want to say, I think what's happening this season has gone beyond what anyone has expected. We've had a difficult month in October, but we all stuck through it. Obviously, yourself being laid up for a while, and everything. 2021's just been amazing. 2022, can't wait to find out what happens. But what's been your favourite moment of the Southern League season so far?
Obviously, I've missed quite a lot of it. I'd probably say beating Salisbury. I think that was a real, bit of a shock to everybody in football. Anybody who had looked at that game beforehand would have had Salisbury to win the game. We've played some outstanding football that day. We've come up against a Salisbury team that are a good team. Let's not forget they are a good club. And we've got the result and shown, I think shown a lot of doubters that we've actually got a very, very good squad at Plymouth Parkway and that we can develop. So I think, Salisbury's probably a big highlight. And obviously getting back to the games, having missed quite a few on the road. I've done one Willand game this season now since I've started to get recovered, and hoping to make it to Bideford this weekend, and then got the mad trip to Spennymoor the weekend after. So but I think for that reason, because it was sort of me coming back, the result, and I think it just everything clicked that day, and I think we just looked like we were the higher league team, if I'm brutally honest, on that day. Yeah, and that just sums up. Gav, thank you. Mark, thank you for taking the time out to answer these questions. No worries. And to those who have watched, hopefully we'll be doing a bit more stuff like this more often. Maybe get Jez on camera, you never know. But for now, thank you very much, and we'll see you at Bideford, hopefully.